fatalities among youth in agriculture. I'll mention a little bit of some resources that may be available to all of you as far as youth worker guidelines. So there's been a lot of research and publication that's been done by the Child Egg Safety Network and the National Children's Center for Agriculture Safety and Health around worker guidelines for youth and kind of the risks associated with that, and how has adults and those managing those youth, or maybe parents to those youth, how we can help keep them as safe as we can as they're handling those tasks in our agriculture facilities or just in rural areas. And then I'll talk to finish up just, if you're interested in bringing safety education to children in your areas, kind of what's available to you and how you can move forward to bring a safety day into your community. So let's jump right in. So to get to know a little bit about who we are. So the Progressive Agriculture Safety Day program is a program that has been around for about 30 years now. It was established in kind of the center part of the United States, really with a focus on how do we reduce injuries and fatalities among children in rural America. There was a magazine article series that was done in the mid-90s that focused on stories of injuries and fatalities among youth, and what that impact was not only to the farm family, but also to their rural communities. That it really moved out beyond just that family. And the overall result of that magazine series was identifying the need that we need to provide some level of safety education to rural American youth to let them know, help them identify the risks around farms and ranches and just agriculture facilities, and how to really keep themselves safe, and in turn, almost keeping that entire family unit safe as well. So, like I said, our program's been around since the mid-90s. The program itself has impacted and involved almost 2 million people since we started. And all of that has been kind of through our mission on providing educational resources to communities to really help them keep their children safe, identify those risks and how to keep their children safe from being injured or killed. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we kind of move forward through the program. Each year as an organization, we will train about 400 to 500 individuals that serve as our lead coordinators in these rural communities. So we have a small staff of 7 that focuses very heavily on recruiting volunteers, supporting volunteers, training volunteers, but then also writing the curriculum that goes forward to be able to teach all of the different topics that we have. And we do all of that curriculum based education is all going to be focused on hands-on activities. So we want the kids to be able to learn by doing. So we want to get them interactive. We want them to have fun, but we also want them to be safe. So we're writing curriculum. We're having that curriculum reviewed by peers in the safety and health industry so that we make sure that it's appropriate for that age group. It's the appropriate, most up-to-date safety messages for the topic. Then, like I said, we want it to be interactive and fun, because if the kids have fun at a Progressive Agriculture Safety Day, they're going to go home and talk about safety. How many of us want to go home and talk about safety, or we attend a safety session and we want to go home and talk about it with others in our family? If we can make it fun for the kids, they want to go home and talk about it, share what they did, share what they learned. And in result, we get feedback from parents saying, hey, my kid came home, they're talking about, this situation, this topic, telling me that I'm unsafe in the way that I do it. What did you teach the kids? How can we be more safe on our farm, our ranch, in our community? And we know then that that message gets home, it's changing behaviors, not just for the child, but also for the adults as well, which is, it's an exciting thing for a whole community to experience that. On an annual basis, we will have Progressive Agriculture Safety Days hosted in about 400 communities across the United States and Canada. And those safety days will reach somewhere close to 80,000 children. And again, because we have a small staff, we're all about mobilizing volunteers. And so those 80,000 children will be taught by about 20,000 volunteers. So We're definitely a volunteer heavy organization, which makes it kind of fun because it actually puts that advocacy for safety education on the shoulders and the responsibility of those volunteers in the local community who are with those children day in and day out. One interesting thing that as our program has evolved is the vast majority of our safety days now are held as part of a school event. So it's held during the school day. We actually have a number of safety days that are being held today during National Farm Safety and Health Week. But it's part of the school day. It's part of the school curriculum. That school district may have all of the third graders, for example, come in, go through the program. And so then over time, every student that goes through that school will have experienced a progressive agriculture safety day. So it's a really neat way to get all of the children in a community exposed to the program, exposed to the safety messages, and hopefully over time then create a more safety-minded community. And just quickly, you can just see kind of the scope of where we're at. When you look to the west, it seems to get a little sparse as far as where we are. Again, as I mentioned before, we were founded in kind of the center of the state. We originated in Alabama. There was also a sister organization like us in Iowa. So you can see where those big growth areas have been as our two organizations, in a sense, came together when that organization closed its doors to continue building upon the successes of both organizations through that central part of the heartland. Though our program is open to anyone who wants to bring it into the community. So much of it is just creating that awareness of the resources we have available so that you can bring it in. And again, as a nonprofit organization, we do it we're providing those resources almost at no cost to those communities. Which has been a great opportunity for just about anybody to bring a safety day in to teach that potentially life-saving education to their children. So why? What's the importance? Why do we keep doing it? 30 years is a great thing to look back on and say we've done good work, but why do we continue to do this? And the data just keeps telling us that children are still getting injured on farms. I mean, we've reached a lot of kids, but there's a lot of communities that don't have any type of formal safety education for youth involved for them to identify risks, identify how to stay safe. You can identify, the other big question we always get is, why farm safety? Why agriculture safety? Less than 2% of children are being raised on a farm. Why do you keep doing this? And our answer is right back to the research and the data. Youth are being injured on farms. The majority of those youth who are being injured are not working on the farm when the injury occurs. They're visiting the farm, they're living on the farm, but they're not working. They're just there, exposed to those risks and hazards, and in some cases not even aware that they're being exposed to those. And the statistics are still pretty steady from what we've been able to track through some of our safety partners or some of the other organizations that do this research. About every 3 days, we lose a child to a death in an agriculture-related incident. And about every day, 33 children are injured in an agriculture-related incident. So we know that our work is not done. There's still more children we can reach and really to try to get that messaging out. And again, when these children are not growing up on farms and inherently learning about the risks and dangers, we want to make sure that they're exposed to the safety education. So when they go and visit Grandma and Grandpa's farm, they go to an orchard, they go to a pumpkin patch, there's equipment there. These are working facilities. Yes, the workers those facilities try to remove those risks from people who are visiting, but in some cases, those risks are still there. And we want to make sure that, we're getting some of that education out to kids so they're aware. In their rural communities, there are risks. Here's how you can stay safe, and here's how you can communicate to keep others safe as well. One of the big areas of injury and death is around all-terrain vehicles and utility task vehicles. So ATV, UTVs, those incidents continue to rise, and it doesn't matter where you're at in America. It seems like these vehicles, especially over the pandemic, increased in numbers of ownership, and we're seeing more and more youth operating as well as being injured and killed while operating these vehicles. So this is one of the probably most hot topics in our programming. And it really is because this has taken off so much. And it relates to folks on farm, off farm, because it's really kind of become more of a rural situation. I'm not sure what it may be like as far as operators and riding in the communities you all come from, but I can tell you that, you know, as we travel around the United States, we're finding more and more communities, counties, states, where they're starting to allow these machines to be legally operated on paved roadways. So, you know, not only do we have the risks of operating these either while we're working in our operations or while we're enjoying recreation off-road, but now we're starting to intermix those onto paved roads with other traffic and the risks and the dangers that all come with that, being an off-road machine being operated on paved surfaces. And because of that, we're seeing the injuries and deaths also increase. You can see, you know, based on the statistics that are out there, there's over 100,000 emergency department visits each year due to ATV and UTV incidents, over 700 deaths annually from these. About a quarter of them involve children. And we talk with families a lot across the United States about how these are happening, why they're happening, as well as how they potentially can prevent them. But youth under the age of 16 have 12 times the risk of ATV injuries, both fatal and non-fatal, compared to adults. And you can see kind of as they break out the top states of some of those deaths, you know, it really is spread out across the United States. It's not just focused in on a certain area or a certain demographic. So some of the things that we teach kids, which is some great messaging for adults as well, just around how to be safe on ATVs and UTVs. When it comes to children, the first and foremost, we have to make sure that we're matching the size of the operator to the size of the vehicle. And I would even take that a step farther and say, you know, not only matching the physical size, which is extremely important, but also matching the capability, that cognitive capability of the youth to be able to operate the machine that they're being asked to operate or that they're wishing to operate. So just a couple pictures here. The ATV on the left of the screen here. This is actually a toy, but it's a great one that we utilize with kids to show perfect sizing. So you can see the operator in full personal protective equipment, helmet, long sleeves, gloves, long pants, boots, but that when they're sitting on that machine, they're comfortably sitting there, feet flat on the platforms, hands can reach the controls, but they can also use that long seat to be an active rider. So we talk very much with kids about being an active rider. What does that mean? That means being able to maintain your center of gravity, that balance of the machine, by moving your weight forward and backward on that seat and side to side as you go up and down hills, side hills, and make turns. We want to be able to use that seat to be an active rider, but through that process, we need to make sure that we're the right size to the machine so that we can keep our feet flat on the platforms and have both hands comfortably on the handles so that we can maintain control of that vehicle. When we do some of our progressive agriculture safety days, we'll actually put small children on these large ATVs and explain to them. They can then see, and that even if the parents are there, they can see it for themselves that, you know, when that smaller child is there, they can't keep their feet flat on the platform. So what's going to happen when they're riding and they're trying to maintain balance, but they're unable to really keep a good steady hold on that vehicle, that they could easily be thrown off. And as we size those kids down to sitting on and operating the smaller vehicles, then they can start to see how it's just a better fit. And we have so many kids who jump on the large machines and they want to operate them, but they quickly say, you know, can you operate that safely? The kids will say no. Why? It's much too big for me. We put them on a smaller one and they want to take it home because it's just like it was meant for them. UTV is the same thing. We don't see many of these out, but they are manufactured. So this is one manufactured by Polaris. Polaris actually donated this to us. So we actually traveled the United States with this one to show how we can match up the size of the operator to the machine utilizing that smaller child-sized UTV. Again, machines made for and manufactured for children around that size and age range, about 10 to 12 years old. So again, size matters, physical size will matter to matching with that, but also that cognitive ability to be able to operate the machine and make decisions operating that machine effectively and safely. Wearing appropriate equipment is the other one. I'm going to start this video just as we talk through it. Helmets, ATVs especially, but on UTVs, helmet use is essential to keeping that brain, that head of theirs protected in the case of an incident. And as we go and talk to children and go and talk to adults, we emphasize that helmets are not a one-size-fits-all solution. You can't have a family helmet. You need to have a helmet that is sized specifically for that youth, for that child. So the easiest way to do that is to put that helmet on their head, grab it by the front of the helmet, be able to move the helmet side to side, up and down, and the head and the helmet should all move together. The helmet should not be slipping around on the head. If it is, it's too big, bring the size down. As the child grows, as their head grows, the helmet size is going to have to get bigger for them too. So yes, there's some cost involved in that, but we need to make sure that we're appropriately sizing those helmets, and then that we're also wearing those helmets appropriately too, by being able to snug up the retention straps, wearing some type of eye protection, whether it's goggles or a shield, and utilizing both of those to protect ourselves and our heads. So again, helmets are not one size fit all. We need to make sure that helmet is properly sized for the youth that are wearing. Just to break down really quickly, ATV versus UTV. So again, there is some differences, as you all know. ATV, we're sitting on top of the machine. We do not have a roll cage. We do not have a seat belt. Some of the safety tips that are the same for both of them, that's going to keep both youth and adults safe, are probably those first 4 bullet points. We see a lot of incidents based because people are riding on paved roads. These machines are not made to be ridden on paved roads. The tires are not manufactured to be ridden on paved roads. So they actually can be a little bit hard to control, especially at high speeds on paved roads. Speed is another major factor of incidents and fatalities, both among adults and youth with ATVs and UTVs. So reducing those speeds will definitely keep people safer, and then never operating under the influence of alcohol and drugs. The other thing, and we talk quite a bit about this with youth, and that is about utilizing caution when carrying a load or pulling a trailer. And how that will change the center of gravity on the machine. So we actually have a couple different activities that we can do with them where we can show how that center of gravity changes when we place a load on the back rack of an ATV or a UTV, and how it will actually cause it to tip sooner, and how it can actually cause it to be less responsive for braking and turning. So again, some activities we can do a little hands-on that the kids can see it, they can feel it, and they can start to relate it back to their own experiences that they have as they're out operating these machines. ATVs, as I mentioned, they have that long seat. We always ask the kids, does it have a long seat so you can put some extra riders on it? No, that long seat is there so you can be an active rider to help maintain some stability on that machine. We should never be carrying extra passengers. We get the question a lot, well, what about if my machine has an extra seat or a third-party add-on seat that goes on the rack? Again, those are not made by the manufacturer. They're not intended to carry a rider. You're increasing the weight on the back of that machine. Again, it's much back to carrying a load. It's going to change the center of gravity. It's going to make that machine less responsive. It's going to create some risk and hazard. So we need to be aware that we're adding risk and hazard when we add some of those third-party add-on aftermarket seats to the machine. Helmets with ATVs. Number one safety item that you can have and wear would be to wear a helmet when you operate your ATV. It's really the only thing that's going to protect you with these machines, because in an incident, you have a better chance of being thrown from the machine or striking an object because you are out in the open. And then, as I talked about before, ATVs especially, matching that size and the ability of the operator is important. It's going to be what's going to keep them operating that machine safely and effectively. especially in the case where they do have to overcome some obstacles or situations. If they're just floating around on top of there without that stability of being able to hold the handlebars with feet flat on the platform, they're going to be less stable as an operator, and it's going to cause the machine to be less stable as well. Talk about UTVs, again, some of those same things around driving on paved roads, reduced speeds. But for this one, yes, helmets are important. Absolutely, they are. But in a UTV, wearing the seatbelt and fastening the doors and the side nets. And adults, I can't tell you enough, do this every time you get in. I don't care if you're going to drive 10 feet. Doing that shows youth that it is important and it's necessary, and it's going to keep them safe. I cannot tell you the number of individuals that have come up to me at conferences and shows and different things where we've been exhibiting and have shared with us their experiences of neighbors, others in their community, their own children, their spouses being thrown from machines, being ejected out of these machines in incidents and either being severely injured or killed. We've got the issue with ejection, and we also have the issue where people are not wearing seatbelts and these machines roll over, and they actually roll over on top of the operator, the passenger. That roll bar structure is there to protect you. It's creating a safety zone for you as the operator and the passenger, but it's only going to be safe for you. That's only going to be a safety zone if you're wearing your seatbelt and you also have those side netting locked or the side doors closed. We often tell kids is when we talk about UTV safety, it's like going to the amusement park, getting on the roller coaster, and they say, please keep all hands, arms, and all objects inside the vehicle. The seatbelt and that side net or that side door are going to do that for you. It's going to help try to keep your arms and everything else inside that vehicle in the case that it does roll over, strike something. It's going to keep you in that safety zone. UTVs, the same thing as I mentioned with ATVs of matching the size of the operator to the size of the machine. We want to make sure that that individual can sit in the seat comfortably, feet flat on the floorboards and the back against the seat. So when they put that seatbelt on, we need to make sure it's keeping them snug in that seat. We don't want them to be scooted straight up to the front of the seat so that, when they put the seatbelt on, if something was to happen, there's another 6 or 8 inches between their back and the seat. We want to make sure they're stuck flat against the back of the seat. Again, depending on the size of the individual, it may mean that they can't safely operate some of the bigger machines, and that would be for adults too. If you're a smaller size adult, especially from a height standpoint, you may not be able to comfortably fit and safely operate some of these larger UTVs because of your height. And I've talked to some of the manufacturers about that, and they're trying to do a better job of manufacturing to some of those specs around smaller size folks. But I would tell you that, that hasn't been where they have focused their design around. And so it has caused some unsafe situations for even smaller size adults with the larger machines. So that's ATV and UTV safety. Like I said, that is, it's been one of our more highly taught topics, and it has really become something across the United States. It's not region specific because of how many operators, how many of these machines are out in rural America and are being utilized also by youth. Unfortunately, a lot of them are the very large adult-sized models, and we're hearing every day that kids are operating them. So some of that is helping kids understand, but also parents understand just what those risks are if you are letting your children operate these very large 100cc machines. How you're adding that risk and the potential safety hazards to those youth. As I mentioned before, we find out from research that a lot of youth that are being injured on farms and in rural communities around agriculture are not working at the time. But there are also, 40-something% that are working when they are injured. And some work that has been done, both from a research standpoint, but then also how do we address this, is available to all of you. And it's available online, both as online resources as well as print resources that you can order and hand out. And all of that comes from the National Children's Center for Agriculture Safety and Health, as well as the Child Ag Safety Network. As I mentioned, the statistics, about 48% of all fatal injuries to young workers occur in agriculture. So when you look across all the industries where we have young workers, almost half of the injuries that result in death are in the industry of agriculture. Although, as I mentioned before, over 50% of those children are not working when they're injured in those agriculture areas. When we look at young workers being fatally injured, it's about 7.8% compared to all other industries combined. So we know agriculture is dangerous, but it can be ultimately exponentially dangerous to youth, even compared to some of these other industries. And you can see, as I talked about ATV and UTV safety and why that's important and why that's being taught so much. It is one of the leading causes of fatal events, including with tractors. So you can see the leading causes there. Transportation, including tractors, ATV and UTVs would fall into that. Machinery is still high on that. And then we get into, violent contact with animals and other humans and different things as it relates to agriculture. But again, that hardcore part of agriculture and the use of machinery is still a main driver for fatalities and injuries among our youth workers. One of the questions I'm constantly asked is, with all the new technologies, new tractors, things manufacturers are doing, why do we still have the injuries that we do? And from my standpoint, again, you may get a different answer from others, but from my work that we do here with the Safety Day program, there's a number of reasons. One of them is, yes, we have new technologies. I mean, we've got guidance systems and different things in tractors. So, we should be relying on technology more, which we are. And in some cases, relying on that technology is actually creating some new hazards that we didn't have 5 or 10 years ago. So, we're introducing some new hazards, even though hopefully the technology is removing some of the old hazards. The other thing I would mention is just like ATVs and UTVs have become more prevalent in rural communities among non-farmers. The same thing is what we're seeing across North America with utility tractors. So we're starting to see more and more utility tractors making their way into rural America, into acreages. Even people who have just, on 1 acre, 2 acre yards, something like that, are utilizing these utility tractors for gardening, for mowing their lawn, for taking care of their landscaping. And those utility tractors are bringing the same type of risk and hazards that the larger tractors do on our agriculture facilities. Rollover, many of these tractors have rollover protection, but they're not being utilized. The roll bars are being folded down, so people are having rollover incidents, which are causing injury and fatalities. PTO on these utility tractors as they're being hooked up to garden tillers, different utilities like that. It's causing entanglements, much like we've had before. These have loaders, hydraulics. So we're starting to see some of those incidents as well. Again, occurring among folks that you wouldn't consider in the agriculture world, but they're still operating, in a sense, agriculture-related equipment in their rural areas. So some of those risks are coming through, which is causing some of these added injuries and fatalities through the use of tractors and other machines. So I mentioned the Agriculture Youth Work Guidelines. So these are printed materials. They're available at cultivatesafety.org. You can go there and look. They're available in 3 different languages of English, Spanish, and French. On the left is just a screen capture of one of them. So what the Agriculture Youth Work Guidelines do is they take different tasks that could be done in a number of diverse different types of agriculture. And what they've done is they've taken those tasks, they've assessed the youth's ability and assigned kind of associated those to what's appropriate for the age and the ability of that individual. So each one of these, as you can see on there, we're talking about harvesting tree fruit. In this one, for example, can youth do this safely? This is what they must be able to do it safely. So we're identifying here are some of the risks and how we can reduce those hazards as we go into doing this task as a youth. What are some adult responsibilities around supervision, age of the youth, and how much supervision is needed or requested or suggested through these. And then the different hazards that are involved with the task. So we've got hazards and we've got protective strategies. So this one, we talk about the hazards of slippery on uneven surfaces, repetitive motion, chemicals, heights, weight, and the protective strategies of wearing non-skid shoes, gloves, appropriate hand washing, eye protection, sun protection. And again, you're going to find, I'm not exactly sure the number, but there are just a multitude of different tasks and very diverse to agriculture. So everything that could be more appropriate to the agriculture in your regions versus the agriculture in the Midwest Corn Belt, for example. Every one of these tasks is available as a printout online, so you can go in, you can print out the PDF. The fun thing that they've also done, in case you are you're more inclined to be a colored tractor person, whether that's green tractor, brown tractor, orange tractor, or neutral, you can pick the color of the tractor that's printed out. So if that's more appealing to folks that you're sharing this with, than some of those that have tractors in them, you can actually pick the color of the tractor. The books on the bottom there, those are just some pictures of the 3 different actual publicated books that you can get. So there's safety guidelines for youth operating farm equipment that would have all the tasks in there associated to farm equipment. There's another book about youth working in gardens and all the tasks involved in that. And then another of youth working with animals. So those are available too that you can order from that cultivatesafety.org. And again, as I mentioned, you can either download, print out, or you can get them to send you the books if you have something or someone that you want to pass those out to, which would have, again, a collection under those bigger guidelines. So again, anything we can do, both from the standpoint that we take at Progressive Agriculture Safety Days is how do we keep those youth safe from the ages of 4 to 13, and then when they start working on the farm and in agriculture, around that age of 13, 14, 15, how do we keep them safe now through the agriculture youth work guidelines so that they can be safe workers in those facilities? And again, some of those messages that would come through with the agriculture work guidelines could be pertinent to adults too. So it could be something you could also utilize for adults as some handouts or just to post as reminders of the hazards and how to be more safe in this task that they're doing. All right, so just to finish up here, I want to just talk a little bit about the safety day. So as I mentioned, our program, which is typically a one-day program in communities, focused on ages 4 to 13, is really meant to provide safety messages in a fun, interactive way to change behaviors and create safety-minded youth and hopefully safety-minded communities. An average safety day will highlight anywhere between 8 and 12 safety and health-related topics through hands-on stations. And those topics are chosen by the community. So if you were to host a Progressive Agriculture Safety Day, you get to pick the topics that you want to have presented at your safety day. You get to pick the activities, and you can make it specific to what's important in your community. They're all age appropriate. They're hands-on, as I mentioned. We want to make sure they're fun because then the kids will go home and talk about them. Each one is unique. I can share a little bit of what some of these could look like, but again, we want to make sure that this is meaningful to the community, that you can bring things that are important to the community. If you've had incidents in a certain area, you can present those topics. If there's topics you want to stay away from, you can stay away from those. But it's really focused on utilizing volunteers, parents, leaders in your community, youth leaders, 4-H, FFA, those kind of individuals to help present and really to make it a fun, interactive, impactful day. There's a couple different ways you can do that. I mentioned before that over 80% of our safety days are held as part of the school day, as part of the school curriculum. That's the most popular thing. It can reach all grades over the course of time. So all the children are reached. You can also host community-based safety days. That's how this event started. It was really a program that was focused on bringing the community together. Hey, on Saturday, bring your families down. We're going to have a safety day. You know, this is what you can expect. And it was often held on a weekend, maybe part of a summer program, but it was made to be community-wide. This fall, we're doing something a little different, and we're offering a third mode of how you can present your safety day and host your safety day, and that is by going into the classroom. So we're finding, post-pandemic, kind of this great recession that people talk about, where a lot of folks, went into retirement, changed jobs, things have changed, that, we may not have staffing in some of our locations, some of our organizations, to be able to facilitate and host this larger event. We might not have time to put together and host a larger event. This gives you the opportunity almost to take 1 or 2 volunteers, go into the classroom 4 to 6 times out of the school year and teach a different topic each time you go in. It's still a safety day because when you come in, you're still teaching safety. You're just doing it throughout the school year instead of hosting all of that safety education in one day, one event. As I mentioned, topics are out there. We have over 30 topics with hundreds of activities. So again, you can make this important to what's important in your community. And even though it's called Progressive Agriculture Safety Day, it doesn't have to be agriculture focused if that's not important. We have a number of safety days in urban, suburban areas, which really has no hardcore agriculture topics. They focus more so on bicycle, chemical, electrical safety, lawn equipment safety, mental well-being and stress management, sun safety, heat safety. And they may weave something in agriculture into it if it's important to the community. But again, you get to pick that, which is what our coordinators always come back and say is the most important thing to them as they're developing their program for the youth in the community. As I mentioned, because I have a staff of 7, we really focus on volunteers. So we're always looking for that one person to take the lead in a community, and we call that person our safety day coordinator. They're our primary contact. We have training available for them. We have a portal of resources that we provide for them. So everything is there at their fingertips, and we can be there to support from a distance as needed to make their day a success. You can see the other things that we expect from the coordinator, which is no different than if you were coordinating or planning any other type of event. It's really around, just being that leader for the event, for the community, and allowing us to work with you to hopefully make that successful and impactful for the youth attending. You can apply at any time during the year. We are working right now on applications for 2023. If you go to our website, progressiveag.org, so that's progressiveag.org, you can either click the Get Involved button or the Apply Now. Both those will take you to the same page. You can learn more about the programming we have. We have interest forms there for individuals who are looking to host a safety day in their community. And we also have an online interest form if you're just looking to volunteer, where you can sign up there, and as safety days are scheduled, we'll keep you up to date of any that may be in your area or region that you might be able to travel to and volunteer at. So we want to give you some opportunities to experience the safety day however you may wish, whether that's hosting or just volunteering. All of our training for our coordinators is online. All of our resources are now held online. And we do some different things throughout the year to kind of help, we call them booster sessions, but to help with some of that professional learning around youth safety, around how to be more impactful, more engaging in your safety education, and how to involve others in that process as well. So we probably spend the vast majority of our time focused on supporting and training coordinators more so than anything else, because that is ultimately what's going to be the most impactful for our end user, which is the children participating. With every safety day that is hosted, we provide, as I mentioned, the training. year-round support. You get your own website that you can have all of your stuff sorted out there. The curriculum is all there. The planning manual is all there. All of the activities, how to build the props, how to use the props, how to teach it effectively. But we also send every kid and every volunteer home with a t-shirt. You can see our t-shirt from last year there on the screen. A t-shirt from this year, I don't have a picture of it, but the t-shirt from this year says in big bright letters in the front, safety is my superpower. So that is the t-shirt that we'll be utilizing through the rest of this year and into next year. The kids have really enjoyed that superpower or the superhero theme with safety. So it's been a fun one to utilize this year. The take-home bag that you can see in the picture there, we provide an empty take-home bag for everybody who attends that you can fill as a coordinator. So you can send stuff home with the kids to the parents. And we've had everything from just sending home more information. You could order and send home the youth worker guideline books, but we've also had kids go home with smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, perfectly fitting bike helmets, anything. You get to make it. Yeah, this is your safety day. So you get to decide what goes home. We also provide insurance for the facilities participants and the volunteers of the day. So we provide that coverage. So again, that anyone can host and not fear that they wouldn't be able to provide that coverage on their own. That liability coverage is provided by the foundation. And then, as I mentioned, our new classroom mode, we actually provide some resource kits. So we'll actually send you some props that you can use in the classroom, because again, that's going to be a little bit smaller scale and the activities are a little bit different than you would at a larger safety day. So we're going to provide some of that to you so that you can host those effectively. So again, if you're interested in this, you can go to our website, progressiveag.org. If you got your smartphone, you can also open up your photo app, and that should bring up the link from that QR code that's on the screen. But that'll bring you to that same Get Involved page. You can learn just more about who we are, what we do. And if you are interested, I would urge you to fill out that interest form that's linked from that page. And we'll be in touch. You can learn more. It's not going to commit you to anything, but at least you can get us on your radar. We'll get you on our radar, and hopefully we can meet up and answer any questions you may have. Oftentimes we get the comment, this is all really awesome. I'm just not the person to do it. I'm not the person to coordinate it. But if you know somebody, if you know an educator, a school teacher, someone in FFA, 4-H, a farmer, somebody who is a leader in the community who would be a good advocate for youth safety, would be interested to take the reins and do this. Sometimes that's all about just connecting the resources we have with those individuals. So I just want to point that out as well. But feel free to follow up with me. My contact information is on the screen. You can also go out to any of the social platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. We have resources out there. We have a lot of communication that comes through there as well. All of them utilizing the platforms. All of the platforms are utilizing that handle at PAF Safety Days. So go out and like our Facebook page. Visit YouTube. We have tons of videos out there that could also be utilized for some of your youth or your adult safety education as well. But definitely have some videos focused on youth education and keeping them safe. Like I said, our job is never done. We still have youth, unfortunately, that are being injured and killed in farm incidents and agriculture incidents. We just want to make sure that the resources are available for communities who want to focus in on identifying and helping youth identify what the risks and hazards are in agriculture in rural America and how to hopefully keep them safe and alive. With that, I appreciate the time today. I guess if anybody had any questions, I'm more than willing to answer any questions, have any conversations about our program and about youth safety in general in rural America and agriculture. But like I said, I want to thank you all for the time and appreciate the opportunity to share more about what we do and hopefully how we're keeping children safe. I see a couple notes in the chat, and thank you. I mean, we get that a lot, that we're thanked for what we do, but like I said, it really comes down to communities willing to take this on and do it for their own community. So, you know, we can do what we can to provide the resources, but I really thank all of those in rural communities who are stepping up to bring the program in to teach their children.
Awesome. Again, Brian, thank you so much for your time and for everything that you and your organization is doing. Truly, it is really impactful. Like, the youth is our future. So the love and the support that you guys are giving them to make sure that they're succeeding for the years, it's incredible. And even the little smiles that they had on their face, you can tell that they are getting so much out of it. Like, it looks like a great time for everybody that's involved.
Yep, it definitely is. That's the fun part of what we do is interacting with the kids and making it fun.
Oh yeah, and it looks like you're definitely succeeding at that. So thank you again for your time, and thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you.